welcome to Indianomics. Rangarajan completes 2 years as Reserve Bank Governor this week. My colleague Ritu Singh and I polled a cross-section of rival regulators, top corporate honchos, big bankers and some prominent fund managers to get a sense of how they would grade Rajan's 2 years at the central bank. We will give you the results of that very interesting poll in just a bit. But before that, we have also lined up 3 very different pros to give us a qualitative assessment of Raghuram Rajan. First, former Reserve Bank Governor Dr. C. Rangarajan, then celebrated economics professor from Harvard University Gita Gopinath, and veteran investor Marc Faber. First, let me invite Dr. C. Rangarajan. Sir, thank you very much for joining us. Let me first ask you to rate Raghuram Rajan on the most important job of a governor, making monetary policy. How would you rate him?
Well, I will rate him very high. I mean, the stance adopted by the Reserve Bank under the leadership of Dr. Rajan has been most appropriate. And I also think that the recent framework, monetary policy framework signed between the Reserve Bank of India and the government is an important landmark in the evolution of monetary policy in our country. It gives, in a way, a greater autonomy to the Reserve Bank of India. It clarifies the objective of monetary policy. Therefore, consistent with the need to control inflation, the policy actions have been taken, and I would endorse in a big way what he has been doing.
That's well said, sir. But India Inc. and Indian politicians often complain that the victory over inflation is coming at a very high price in terms of growth. You would agree?
Well, this has been an old argument. I mean, I think this whenever a tight monetary policy has been put in place, it is always said that it has affected growth. But the real point is that over the medium term, it is only low inflation which will provide the environment in which growth can be sustained at a high level. I don't see this conflict. Sometimes there may be a conflict in the short run, but in the medium and long term, there is no conflict between the two. Certainly, we had high inflation, and I think the need to control inflation and bring it within reasonable limits had become urgent, and therefore these actions had to be taken. I certainly think going ahead with the changes that have already happened, perhaps there is scope for reduction in the policy rates further.
Okay, on another plane, Dr. Rangarajan, how will you rate Rajan on financial inclusion, on expanding the contours of banking? You know, he's given licenses to a dozen entities for setting up payment banks, and some of them are actually large conglomerates, some of them are startups. Financial inclusion, how would you rate him?
It is certainly a step in the right direction. We do need mechanisms or institutions which transfer money or transmit money as quickly as possible. After all, Western Union has become an institution by itself. Therefore, we need a corresponding institutions in our country. I do not know whether such institutions should be entrusted with having savings deposits, but the scheme does provide for these institutions to take savings deposits. But certainly, I believe there is a need for a network of institutions for quick transfer of funds.
Now, sir, how will you rate Rajan as a market regulator? You know, regulating the FX market, the rupee, money markets, and the debt markets.
Certainly, the impact and the volatility in the exchange rate has been much less for India than many other emerging markets. That is partly because of the current account deficit being kept at a more modest level. Just contrast it with 2013. In 2013, we had exactly the opposite situation. When there was a shock, the shock was felt much more in India than elsewhere because we had a high current account deficit. So over a period of time, we have managed to bring it down, and I think that is an important factor in moderating the volatility in the exchange rate. Therefore, the Reserve Bank and the government also to some extent can take credit for maintaining the current account deficit at a low level, which in a sense contributes to less volatility in the foreign exchange market.
Sir, Raghuram Rajan's biggest challenge yet may be controlling NPLs. He has tried to revive the joint lender forums of bankers to check loans before they become NPLs. He has also created that all-important database of all borrowers with loans over 5 crores. Do you think this is an institutional achievement? Generally, a rating on NPL control.
This has been talked about even earlier. I mean, the Credit Information Bureau of some type, where at one place the bankers can access information about the borrowers and what has happened to the borrowing and the extent of default and so on. I think it's good to keep this kind of information. There is, of course, a certain amount of confidentiality about this information, but subject to that, I think a fairly large amount of information can be made available to all the lenders so that they can assess the quality of the borrowers.
Okay, sir. How about moves to reform the public sector banks? Actually, the government is the owner and the onus is really on them. But Rajan did set up the PJ Nayak committee, and slowly some of Nayak's recommendations have been accepted by the government, probably with Rajan's persuasion.
The need for reforms in the public sector banks is if I may say so, a continuing effort. I recall earlier not only the introduction of the prudential norms, but also getting the Parliament to pass a legislation to reduce the stake from 100% to 51%. Was an enormous task. I mean, I think people do not realize how difficult it was. Therefore, I think we should see as years roll on how the public sector banks should change. Therefore, the capital adequacy, how much it should be made available, all this is important, and the RBI has a very important role in prodding the government to do the right things. And I think he is doing the right things. He is doing the right proddings.
Okay. Finally, sir, what will be your overall rating of Raghuram Rajan as a central banker across all functions?
Well, I do not know whether you want a numerical rating, but I think that's one way of looking at it. But basically, I think the multiple functions of the central bank have been handled in an excellent way. I would say the performance has been exemplary, and he has found time not only to address the main function of monetary policy, but also other related functions. I think on the whole, it has been a very, very successful 2-year term so far. And therefore, in one sense, I would say it's a A+ performance as a central bank governor. His interests have been wide and not narrowed only to one or two things. He has been able to take care of, as I said, the multiple functions of the central bank.
Well, sir, the government has still 1 year to decide on whether to give him an extension. But if you were asked to decide on that today, what would you do?
No, I think, in fact, even the decision to give only 3 years at the beginning is a wrong one. I think the governor should be given a term of 5 years as a minimum, because he has to, if he has to bring about changes and all that, it takes time. Therefore, certainly, I think he should be given the full term right away.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rangarajan. Coming from you, this, I'm sure, means high praise for Raghuram Rajan. We have to take a break on that note, but thereafter, our exclusive poll. and that celebrity economist, Professor Gita Gopinath, as well veteran investor Marc Faber, on how they grade Rajan.